In this episode of Artists and Chefs at Home, we'll be visiting a beautifully restored bungalow in the Fairpark District of Dallas, Texas. Artist Sarah Manning will create a tablescape inspired by the textures and accents of Old New Orleans with painted votives and oyster shell place cards. Chef Sophia Chan's classic Southern menu includes fried green tomatoes, shrimp and grits, and cinnamon peach cobbler. I'm here with homeowner Jason Brown, who restored this 100-year-old bungalow we're about to see. Jason, please take us on a tour.
It will be my pleasure. Our home was built in around the 1920s. The house actually sat vacant for 30 years or so before we were able to acquire it and go and do a complete rehab restoration of the house. We wanted to have a pretty sizable kitchen to entertain, to host, as well as seating areas for our family and friends. And then dining room, we were able to open up some case openings and incorporate a sizable dining room that turns right off to the hallway foyer into the living room areas. The attic area, which was completely unfinished, we were able to go in and expand and raise the roof line and actually incorporate our master bedroom upstairs. So the challenge that we had throughout this process is how do we preserve the historic aspect of the home, both interior and exterior? How do we complement some of the features that the craftsmen utilized 100 years ago? So we wanted to make sure to preserve that integrity. And so we chose furniture pieces throughout the home that we felt complemented the design integrity intentions back in the 1920s.
I've been a professional artist for 15 years. I specialize in abstract art. My work has been exhibited in galleries throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I use mainly an additive or subtractive method. I love all the colors from Impressionist and the thick brushstrokes. I wanted my tablescape to reflect the old Southern elegance of New Orleans. First, we're gonna paint our oyster shells with a white iridescent paint. I am from Mississippi, Gulf Coast. My mom, she was an art teacher. I grew up in her classroom and with the paintbrush, and she was probably my biggest role model when it comes to why I continued to paint and how I got more into it as I got a little older. I guess my aha art moment came years later. So I went to college, started to look more into art on the computer. That's kind of how I started with just the gradient, how the color just like fades or just fades into another color. Like I feel like that's a huge part of my art that I got from the digital side. It wasn't probably until my late 20s where I actually learned so much about myself. My first art show, I learned that my style was my style. Because seeing everything on the wall, and you could tell like the gradients and then like the use of texture, the push and pull of the media, the linear aspects of it that I contribute to graphic design. And it's not that I regret anything, but I wish I kind of would have had that mindset as a younger person. And we'll just clip it to the back of the shell. And there's your place card.
I'm here with Sophia Chan, who's been a professional chef for over 20 years and learned the secrets of Southern cuisine from her grandmother while growing up in North Carolina.
My family was in the military, so I have explored many other different types of cooking styles and foods, but my favorite is for sure Southern cooking. So I chose an heirloom tomato. It has a tart taste to it. Fried green tomatoes was one of my grandmother's specialties. She had a beautiful garden with a variety of tomatoes and vegetables, and that's what we grew off of. She really believed that a part of her style of cooking, she wanted to grow her own plants and vegetables and that sort of thing. So herbs and spices was really super important to her, but I knew when my grandmother cooked those tomatoes, I mean, it was just so delicious. She lightly battered the tomatoes in cornmeal, and it's just the elegant taste of some of the crab meat that she added was just a part of our Southern style. Just being on the East Coast, we were lucky to get, really fresh seafood. She dazzled that with some vinaigrette, and it's so good. We'll start with a bed of arugula. And then we're going to be placing our fried green tomatoes onto the plate. Next, we'll top it with fresh crab meat. And our final step is the balsamic glaze. And there we have our fried green tomato appetizer.
I wanted painted candle holders, and I chose a technique that I use with my artwork, and it creates a stained glass effect. Color really pushes a lot of my art. I love color palettes, which goes back to, I feel like, my digital design, just having a certain type of color mood board, if you will. Always liked color in anything I paint. That whole additive and subtractive, the layers describe the layers of life and the layers of things I went through. I would lay tape down and then rip it off after it dried, paint over it, kept pushing and pulling, but I felt like life was doing the same thing. So I'll start with an initial color, and then I'll kind of build from there, and I try to take the composition with the colors, and the next step is kind of determined by whatever it looks like when I take that dried tape off. And so then I'll go back, and if I don't like an area or it's not what I want, I'll just continue to put tape down, layers. And so I build off that initial line of tapes. You can just keep painting on layers. You can let them dry and then paint over them. I will use a different brush for the gold accent color. Once you've painted the votive how you want it, you can now go and remove the tape, and you can always come back and fill in more paint. So you'll see the clear spots that were preserved from the tape. And so now you have some clear spots where the light, when the candle's lit, will pick up.
So for our main course, we're going to be making my grandmother's famous shrimp and grits. My grandmother, she loves shrimp. Coming back from practice or from school, she just knew exactly what I needed. Something that wasn't so heavy and just enough to fill me up with something that was really tasty. Shrimp and the bacon was just something that you smelled automatically when you walked in the door. It was just like you wanted to come home. Every time I smell something very similar to it, it reminds me of my grandmother. So that's the reason why I chose this particular entree to share with you. It's a simple meal, it's simple ingredients, but the flavor is bold, and I think it's simplified enough for everyone to cook. If you have a skillet accessible, it does bring a lot more of that flavor, especially when the seasoning, it kind of sticks to the shrimps. My recommendation is to set it on medium. Generally, it takes about 5 to 6 minutes on medium. We're going to be adding Old Bay seasoning and parsley to the other side. To plate our shrimp and grits, we're going to start with 2 spoons of our grits right into the center. Take our shrimp and kind of have fun with this, because this is your last masterpiece before your guest takes a bite of this delicious dish. And then next we're going to use the chopped bacon. Just kind of garnish a little bit, have a little fun. And then we're going to top it off with some fresh scallions. And here we are, my grandmother's famous shrimp and grits.
I'm cutting about 1/3 of the doily. Then we have our paper towel roll. I'm going to cut Take your super glue and just put a little dot in the middle, and you'll just want to wrap the doily around the paper towel ring and secure it with one last drop of super glue. And now you have a napkin ring holder. Now we'll begin to build our tablescape. I chose a deep burgundy velvet because it reminds me of some of the famous old restaurants in the French Quarter. Just spread the runner down the table and arrange it in ripples and flowing lines to give it texture. The beautiful old magnolia trees are famous in New Orleans, and I wanted to have them reflected in the centerpiece. I chose 2 round vases and 1 square vase, and I filled them with river rocks. We're gonna start by taking individual artificial leaves to cover the inside of the vase. The Dallas art scene, it's ever evolving. It's new artists every day. I think there's a lot of passion in the design district. I think it's growing. Lots of new events and new faces for sure. There's a lot of support for the art community in Dallas. I see a lot of growth in Fort Worth as well. I think there's a lot of collaborations with whether it be interior design firms and artists. A lot of times an artist will just go to a restaurant and say, can I hang my art here, like just for free, because it looks like you need some love on your walls, and they'll let them. And so I feel like that's always been a good thing in the community. I feel like it's a great time to be a young artist, and I remembered when my first show in Dallas was overwhelming and it's kind of led me on to the next venture. And I hope that younger artists can take advantage of all the opportunities that are available for being in the area. I chose strands of dried vines to weave in between the vases and to add a warm wood tone to the table. The whole idea of the tablescape was the southern feel, the magnolia trees and the gold accents. But the art part comes in coming up with these different components that represent the initial theme. When you look at the initial supplies, there's an aspect of seeing something that's in your face, a doily, and the ability to look at it and say, well, I could do napkin ring holders. The shells you can pick up from your craft store and just make it a placeholder. The gold part of the shell kind of helped accent like the napkin ring holders, and that was kind of a nice visual element. And then the votives, like trying to throw my own art into this aspect was a big challenge.
So for our dessert course, we're gonna be making a southern peach cobbler. My grandmother had a great garden of vegetables and fruits and that sort of thing, so peaches was always been one of her favorites. One of my favorites that she made was peach cobbler. It's nice and light, but just enough, and with a hint of cinnamon, and the sugar was just enough to really bring out a lot of that sweetness in a dessert that you're kind of looking for, especially with a side of vanilla ice cream. She would say, hey, let's go to the garden and let's pick out some peaches. And she was showing me the beginning part of, just starting that process, understanding the value of that fruit. I wasn't a huge baker at first. I just thought about the mess part, but I had fun. As a child, just adding the flour and the concept and getting your hands dirty. It's that anticipation, and you can smell it baking in the oven, and it's just, it taught me a lot of patience. And then she would always scoop out vanilla bean ice cream to go with it. Syrup that was in the peaches was amazing with the collaboration of both. It was worth the wait at the end. Look at those colors. We'll bake it at 350 degrees for 45 minutes. And this is what our peach cobbler looks like out of the oven. And we are going to grab our first slice. And We're going to just grab a few other leftover pieces. Add a sprinkle of cinnamon. And there is your Southern Peach Cobbler.
To build your place setting, you'll start with a gold charger. This will begin to tie in all the gold accents I've chosen for the table. Next, add a white dinner plate, then a marbled salad plate that has streaks of gold, a wine and water glass, both with gold accents. Place your gold flatware, your gold napkin ring, and finally your place card with gold edging. I wanted to create a tablescape that captured the elegant southern notes of old New Orleans. The beautiful white magnolias and creeping vines that line its shady avenues, the rich burgundy velvet of its restaurants and salons, the stained glass of its historic churches, the oyster shells that remind us of the sea's bounty, all tied together with recurrent gold accents that speak of the city's rich heritage.
My wife and I, we frequent New Orleans quite a bit and have a real unique palate as it relates to Southern cuisine. The fried green tomato with that assortment of crab and arugula, it was quite enjoyable. The shrimp was amazing, lightly seasoned. Great choice in food, great choice in presentation. Just like we were in New Orleans eating, something off Magazine Street from one of the finer restaurants. The tablescape was quite unique as well. The color scheme is one thing that I think everyone talked about and enjoyed the most. Pure luxury, elegant with the gold complements around the glass with placeware. It was a great overall piece that we felt complemented the menu as well as complemented the house. To friends. To friends.
Thanks for joining us. On our website, artisanchefs.com, you will find detailed recipes, table creation tips, and a list of local retailers where you can purchase our table and meal kits to create your own custom dinner party.